Okay. Customer management. Now that's something that's a bit of a bone of contention with a lot of people. You go on Twitter, everybody wins.
Yeah.
They've all been restricted. Nobody can get a bet. What is the reality of it?
Well, it is a big part of, it is a big part of any major firm now. I think that the time I realised how much it was become a factor and how much it was changing was when there were more people employed within the trading room dealing with customer accounts and monitoring business than there were actually setting the odds. I think that was kind of like the tipping point where it was, there is a lot more markets, there's a lot more business. You want to, I think a lot of the time people imagine that people are just cut arbitrarily because of, we don't like them or they're winners. I can understand why people feel like that, and I'm certainly not going to say there aren't people that just had one or two bets who have had their accounts restricted. But quite often when you look at it, it's because they've got 6 accounts, or they've bet on something that's, been put up the wrong way round. So, it's been put up 6-4 instead of 4-6 or something like that. And a lot of those people that have their accounts restricted, it's because of some, let's say, nefarious activity. I don't think it's as rife as you would believe from the people. I think people only complain when they've had a bad. It's like you go on TripAdvisor and look at a restaurant review. People are more likely to complain when they've had a bad meal than write something up when they've had a good meal. I think that's a lot of the way with social media. That's the case. I'm not saying it doesn't go on. Of course it does, because it's a huge business, and any business you were in, it'd be remiss of you and your shareholders if you weren't doing the best and that you could to optimise the business for yourselves. In the same way that any customer can go and bet with any bookmaker. They're not restricted to having to bet with one firm. Should it be the case that every bookmaker has to lay every customer?
Okay, so there's another thing I was interested in, trading tools. Briefly tell us what trading tools are.
Yeah, algorithmic programs that people design, that quants design, and so that you can run multiple events rather than just who's going to win the match. So on football, for example, you couldn't possibly, if you were trading it, run 200 markets yourself. But using a trading tool, it can update as long as it knows how long's been played, and as long as it knows what the score is, and as long as it can be told if it's a penalty or a free kick, or it can then develop next corner markets, throw-ins, bookings, time of goals, etc. You can, it can do 200 markets that you couldn't do if you were trying to do them on your own.
Okay, and liability management. Don't bookies just stand everything they get?
No, I can't speak for all bookmakers. I was never one. I never wanted to hedge something. I was always very much of, I'm only laying it because I think it's the right price. If I don't think it's the right price, what am I laying it for anyway? And I wasn't one who would look at their field book and adjust the prices necessarily off of the field book, because you can't change anything that's in your field book. All those bets that are already in there, whatever it is, you've already laid them. So by changing the price on it now, you're not affecting any of those bets that are already in there. So I wouldn't look at a book and say, I hated the phrase, we can afford to lay this, or this suits the book. Every bet suits the book if it's at the right price. No bet suits the book if it's at the wrong price. So if you're the wrong price, why are you the wrong price? I'd much more that the only price you need to be right is the next one you lay. You can't do anything about the ones you already laid. So make sure that the prices that you've got on display for whatever it might be, a horse race or a golf tournament or a tennis match, make sure the prices you've got up so the next bet that comes through on the ticker is at the right price. I think there's been some incredible bad trading from firms trying to green up their books, as it's called, or to balance their books. Don't take the bets in the first place if the prices are wrong.
Okay, talking about prices being wrong, something else that used to be incredibly popular, Ante-Post betting, seems to be something not that encouraged anymore. Would you say that's true, and if so, why?
If you're specifically talking about horses,
in this instance.
Yeah, I don't think it ever was as popular as you might lead it to believe. Its popularity as far as a PR tool and as far as, you know, so and so's been cut for Cheltenham or for the Guineas, was newspaper. You know, it was something to get on the front page of the paper. It was something to get a quote somewhere from, you know, Mike Dillon or whoever it might be. The actual amount of business you would take Ante-Post on the 2,000 Guineas, you would take more on the first race at Newton Abbot that was on the same day. You know, it's never anything more than that. But it's good for punters if you know, you've got a chance. Who doesn't want to be on a 20-1 chance that's going off at 2-1? So I think from an interest point of view, from a punter's interest, and for keeping the interest in the sport going, I think, yeah, it is what it is. It's a great medium. I don't think it's any more or less now turnover-wise. You get to the first race at Cheltenham and you take more on the first race at Cheltenham on the day than you would Ante-Post on all of the races in Cheltenham leading up to the festival.
Okay, so you've priced up the Derby, and somebody comes on for a well-bred but unraced 2-year-old for the next year's Derby. Wants a monkey on at 50-1. Are you inclined to take it or bluff it?
It's depended on who the customer was, really. You know, if it's not been raced before, and invariably someone's coming on for that sort of bet, you know, I'd take it if it's a year away. But you know, you're almost paying for that information then at the same time, aren't you? Could be if it's someone connected with the horse, you know, trainer, owner, breeder or whatever, then yeah, you definitely take it, because you want them to come to you to give you that sort of privileged little bit of information, I suppose. But yeah, you equally, for having said that it's not a great medium for huge amounts of business, there'd be very few times you'd ever win any money as a bookmaker. Ante-Post, it really was like a shop window. You'd inevitably end up with the first 2 or 3 in the front of the market in the Guineas all being losers in the book or whatever race it might be, and then you're just hoping for a result on the day. Right,
so you need to be able to monetise the information that you've paid 500 quid for, and potentially a lot more than that for.
Yeah, very much so, yeah.
Okay, so you've been talking for this interview about, you know, your skills at pricing up events. You've been doing it for a long time, very successfully, so you must be a pretty good punter.
I used to be a reasonable punter, yeah, sort of 20 odd years ago, when, like I say, I thought I knew more than I had more information than everyone else did, kind of thing. One of those that sticks in my mind was a Formula One Grand Prix in America. We had a great guy called Roger Toll who did our F1 odds, and the word had leaked through that there was a problem with the tyres. Some of the teams were Bridgestone and some of them were Michelin, and I think it was, guys, maybe 15 years ago, something like that. And it leaked through that the teams were going to run the race, but after the end of the practice lap, 20 of the riders were going to pull straight into the pit lane and finish the race before they'd even gone out, because there was a safety issue with the tyres. So Roger had picked up on this and he told me. So there were the 2 Ferraris, Barrichello and Schumacher, 2 Jordans and 2 Minardis. They'd be the only 6 that were racing. Schumacher and Barrichello were 4-5 and 5-2. The 2 Jordans were 1,000-1. The 2 Minardis were 2,500-1. So I backed the 2 Jordans each way at 1,000-1. So they've gone off on the start lap. All the cars have gone off. 20 of them have pulled in after the first warm-up lap. Just 6 of them have gone out. Schumacher's gone off. Barrichello's gone off. They're a lap ahead of the 2 Jordans. The 2 Jordans are a lap ahead of the 2 Minardis. So all I need is one of these 2 Jordans to finish third, and I've drawn my 1,000-1 each way. They managed to avoid crashing into each other, thankfully, and they did. The race has finished. I said to Roger, God, that's 1,000-1 each way. You know, had the right touch here, sort of thing. Then there's lots of stewards' inquiries. Is anyone paying out? As we're going to avoid bets, because we were aware of it. We were going to settle it as was the race. The firm I'd had my bet with, through my wife's name, was a company called Blue Square, who are sadly no longer with us. Their trading director phoned up our office to speak to Roger, because he was the F1 guy. Says, well, what are you doing? Are you paying out or whatever? And I'm sort of on Roger's shoulder saying, tell him we're paying out, tell him we're paying. We paid out, so they paid out. Money went straight into my wife's account. I won like $6,000 or something like that. But then I didn't actually get paid again, because she kept the money and said that's for the wedding. So it was one of my better results, but I never actually got paid off of it in the end anyway. So I used to punt it became impossible to get bets on because obviously, you know, everyone knew who I was, and I wasn't a big punter. You know, 100 quid would be a big bet for me, sort of thing. And I probably never had a bet for 10 years, and I just started again a couple of years ago. But recreational, I punt like now. I punt on Ascot and Cheltenham, and the TV race on a Saturday, a couple of 100 quid on the golf each week. So I would describe myself as, you know, a bet on the football on Saturday or the TV game, a typical what you would want as a bookmaker, recreational gambler, but with a little bit of knowledge.
I was going to say, it wouldn't be it'd be against your genes to just have a guess up, wouldn't it?
I don't have a guess up, no. You know, I'm a Watford season ticket holder, so I know a little bit about Watford. So I would have a bet on, you know, first player to be booked or something like that, or once I saw team news and that. So I'm not anything that anyone in the high street wouldn't know about, and obviously I know a bit about golf, so I'll pick out who I fancy and have a couple of bets each week, but not to a serious extent, to an extent where I enjoy it and it adds to my enjoyment of the thing, and hopefully I manage to, you know, win a few quid along the way as well.
So you're not working as a trader at the moment?
No.
Not a trader, sorry, odds compiler.
Yeah, no. My tenure at Ladbrokes, Ladbrokes Corals, GVC as it became, ended last year after just under 33 years. It might seem strange to say it was the right time to move on, having been somewhere for so long, but the opportunity came for, they were very generous to me when I left. You know, I wouldn't hear anything said against them as a company, or, you know, they looked after me very well, and it just seemed the right time. My son was finishing his A-levels, he was going to be off for a long time before he went to uni. My daughter had finished her GCSEs. It was time to take a couple of holidays with the family and enjoy some time away together and relax a little bit, and I've kind of done that now, and hopefully, yeah, I might start to look to find my way back into something. I think I've probably still got 10 years in me or something like that before they push me off into the odds compiler's sunset retirement home.
Well, that's the last thing then. You've obviously, well, I assume you're still a bit of a tank left. So have you not considered going all in and going professional punting?
Yes, I have. Obviously, then you get to the point where it all becomes a little bit more serious if you're using it as a livelihood. And then I think the difficulty of getting on becomes a factor. But because, you know, I'm having 50 quid or 100 quid on something, it's not difficult for me to get bets on at the moment. So I think it has crossed my mind, and, you know, it's crossed my wife's mind, and my daughter says to me, "What do I tell my friends you do for a living, Dad?" if they ask me, and she likes to tell them I'm a professional punter, but I wouldn't call it very professional. Yeah, it's an option, it's a possibility, but at the moment, you know, enjoying things as they are, so long may it continue.
Great stuff. Well, Brad Barry, thanks very much for taking the time to talk to us, and good luck.
Yeah, no, thank you. It's been a pleasure.